So our next speaker tonight, we're very privileged to welcome her. She's Professor Rebecca Boden, and she is works in Tampere University in Finland. Rebecca, you're still on mute, so if you could take yourself off mute, that would be great. And we have a lot to learn from Finland. I'm very impressed by the Finnish model, where, as I understand from my research, children from age 6 to 16, all children are universally entitled to a free school meal. And this has been the case for about 70 years. And I think you will have a lot to share with us that the campaigners can learn from, but also that our politicians need to hear. So over to you, Rebecca.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try and get through it. I've lived in Finland. I'm not Finnish, obviously, you can tell by my accent. I've lived in Finland for 4.5 years now, and I'm actually a professor at Tampere University. Tampere is about 100 miles north of Helsinki, sort of in the middle of the southern part of Finland. And pretty much from my beginnings at Tampere, I realized, or I appreciated, the sanctity of lunch at the university amongst my colleagues. No one eats in their office. It's always communal, social, and shared, and starts as early as 11 a.m. It's a full-scale lunch: soup, a plate of hot food, a salad, bread, margarine, because they've got this health kick because of the heart disease rate in Finland, and sometimes dessert and a drink, fruit juice, milk, or pima, which is soured milk. You cannot interfere with the lunch. It takes exactly an hour. You serve yourself from a buffet. You clear your tray away at the end. Everybody wipes. Everybody keeps it all clean and lovely. It's only recently that I've made the connection between these lunch practices at my university, which were replicated in every workplace, and the provision of free school meals, or as they call it, the school feeding programme. School lunches embed these lunch practices in people throughout their working lives, and Finns carry the school lunch tradition into their adulthood, and it's as natural as breathing. Finland has one of the world's best education systems, not just because of its PISA scores, but also because it's based on respecting and caring for children. It's illegal to charge for education in Finland because there's a belief that every person has the right to the same equal education. And I was asking a colleague a few months ago about why the baby box, because Finland also invented the baby box, why that was given universally. And I thought it was a sort of cost-effective thing, but I was very sharply rebuked and told that in Finland, the baby box is a gift from the people of Finland to every child because every baby is welcome. Mm. And I was like gulping my throat at the idea that a whole country could think that every child was welcome. School feeding started in 1943 in Finland in the middle of the Second World War, just after the USSR had annexed Eastern Karelia, which is still part of Russia. Meaning there were lots of displaced children and 50,000 orphans, and the state stepped in to start feeding children at that point. Interestingly, in 1943, Winston Churchill actually wrote, "There is no finer investment for any community than putting milk into babies." We should remind Boris Johnson about that. After 1943, there was a 5-year transition plan such that by 1948, it was law that all children in primary schools had to have a free hot lunch supervised by adults every day. In 1983, this was extended to secondary schools. And now university undergraduates and master's students get around a €2 a meal subsidy for every meal they eat at the university. So Finland was the first country in the world to introduce universal free school meals. And even in the school holidays, the local councils put on sort of, play events and summer camp things in the parks. I see the kids in Tampere, they turn up there with their bowl and their spoon and their cup because they even get fed. It's a voluntary thing at this point, but they get fed even when they go to the summer camps. How did this happen? Finland got its independence from Russia in 1917 from Lenin, who reputedly very much liked Finland and Tampere especially because it makes very fine blood sausages, to which he was quite partial. It was an extremely poor country. It was just a community of remote forest dwellers. And after 1917 and a horrible civil war, it embarked on a real program of nation building. It was a nation building project, quite explicitly. You know, for the first time ever, Finland had its independence as a country. And that involved building a community through the strength of the people. And Finland takes this idea very seriously about the people are its strengths. Mm-hmm. So it introduced the baby box in 1938 because it had a horrendous child mortality rate. Mm. And the baby box was introduced to encourage women to walk for many miles out of the forest and attend their antenatal clinic appointments. Primary schooling was made compulsory from 1921. And even now, there's this marked, strong sense of national but not nationalistic spirit. It's a nation of enthusiastic taxpayers. People, yeah, I pay very, very high taxes in Finland, but nobody resents it, including me, because everybody feels they're contributing for the national good, for everybody's good, for the collective good. They're very pragmatic. Every child is welcome because every child can contribute towards a stronger economy, a stronger society, and a stronger Finland. And it's deeply egalitarian country. Yeah. So how does the program work? School feeding program is not just about giving food. And you can imagine they've been asking me all sorts of questions about those disgusting pictures of, you know, the food parcels kids were being given in England during the lockdown. Instead, school lunches are seen as a social investment in children so that they become better citizens. It's an investment in learning. School feeding is a formal part of the national curriculum and the welfare services. Municipalities must by law provide meals, but these are subsidised by the state. The average cost per child in 2017, it's the most recent figure I could find, is €2.80 a head, about £2.50 a day. The school feeding programme is tightly regulated, not just on the provision, but national standards, quantities, and so on. Mm-hmm. There's a little quote from, I'll send it to you actually, it's a good Ministry of Foreign Affairs report on this. Quote, school meals generally consist of typical Finnish foods with international influences, that means they have pasta sometimes. Portion size examples, model plates for different age groups are provided in the recommendations for school meals. A balanced school meal includes a hot dish, including potato, rice or pasta with fish, white or red meat, or vegetarian protein sources, such as legumes or eggs. A vegetable side dish and salad, including dressing and oil. A drink, milk, plant-based milk drink, or soured milk, that's the pima. Whole grain bread, and I'm sorry to say margarine again. The regulations also include the requirement that the meals are supervised by adults, relaxing for the children, and that they, quote, give children pleasure. Yeah. Lunch is an important social occasion. This isn't just feeding, but lunch is a part of the social education of children, and about binding people together, that everybody shares lunch and everybody gets the same lunch. You can choose vegetarian or not vegetarian, that's it. Children are involved in the meal planning, and in some schools they're involved in growing the food as well. Some municipalities have deliberately decided not to use big suppliers and are developing local kind of organic, independent food suppliers and so on. So it strengthens local economies as well. You're not allowed to sell sugary sweets and snacks in Finnish schools. You know, if there's a vending machine, the parents have to be consulted about what their kids are going to have. And it's not all perfect. So the Finns get terribly worried. If I've just got 1 minute to, this is a lovely quote. School meals are also taken for granted. Not all people eat the full school meal every day. The goal of 100% coverage is not achieved. Even though the food is available for all, you can feel their confusion over this. In lower grades, almost all the pupils eat the school meal every day. In upper grades, the attendance at school lunch is lower. And it goes on to talk about teenagers eating unhealthy snacks. And this is often correlated with alcohol and smoking, you know. So there's a sort of real concern that children are fed. And I suppose at the end of this, I can say the cultural foundations of this are really clear. An egalitarian society embarked on a nation building project, a desire not to stigmatize or shame anyone, a belief that bringing children up is the responsibility of all citizens, and we should all pay for that through our taxes, and that care for children isn't the parents' responsibility, but is shared with the state and with your community. And it becomes an important bonding mechanism and a real genuine social inclusion. So sorry, I've got to stop there. I could go on for ages, but it's a fascinating topic.
That was wonderful, Rebecca. You know, what I loved about it when you mentioned how every child is everybody's child. Wow, you know,
and every child is welcome.
Every child is welcome. Yeah, you know, it's the opposite of the kind of selfish society that we've seen since the Thatcherite years onwards. You know,